They've touched our hearts, they've made us smile, and became dear friends, who we will always remain hopelessly devoted to.
The high-spirited 1978 musical Grease left a lasting mark on Hollywood and pop culture, but some of its actors have now left us forever. Years after giving the 80s and 90s kids something to discuss and sing along to, over a dozen familiar faces from the Grease movie have lost their lives, leaving without goodbyes.
Almost 35 years ago, our first guest made history when they starred in the biggest movie musical of all time, Grease.
But just how difficult was it to accept their demise for fellow Hollywood actors? How much do their deaths mean to the average Hollywood enthusiast? Join us as we discuss the 12 actors from Grease that left us forever. Number 12, Susan Buckner. Before death came knocking on Susan Buckner's door in 2024, she was a super sensation that thrived under Hollywood's spotlight. Susan Buckner was an important part of the Grease cast who played high school cheerleader Patty Simcox. She redefined what it meant to shine as a key supporting character to the leading female character, Sandy Olsson. Her comedic timing brought versatility and humor while displaying serious range and emotional depth as that one friend who showed up without trying to upstage her best friend. While Susan made her name as Patty Simcox, she did not stop at making her presence felt on television, exploring other series like The Brady Bunch Hour and When the Whistle Blows. Sadly, despite her lasting appeal to fans of the franchise, she passed away on May 2, 2024. Naturally, losing a fan favorite of the silver screen sent a ripple throughout Hollywood, with emotional reactions saturating social media from her fans, colleagues, and her daughter, Samantha. However, the press came calling, hounding Samantha for details about her mother's death. To honor her mother, she chose not to play the media's game or let her mother's death be dragged on too long. However, she handled the constant media attention gracefully, telling them that her mother had died peacefully in her bed at the age of 72, but gave no access to her medical records. But if Susan Buckner's death caused such an outpouring of emotions, how did fans react to the death of the leading female character, Olivia Newton-John, who actually set the stage alight? Number 11. Olivia Newton-John. Olivia had always been somewhere around the top of the conversation about rising stars in the entertainment industry in the 70s. However, she did not make it into Hollywood immediately as an actress. At first, she pursued various endeavors because she had serious musical talent. Although she had been chasing the musical high since she was in the United Kingdom, finding real entertainment success at the time was often tied to the United States, so she moved to America on the advice of Australian singer Helen Reddy, and she found fame with her first album, Have You Ever Been Mellow? It was not long before she topped the charts with 2 songs from her album, on both the pop and country charts. It was nigh unheard of, seeing an Australian lass from the United Kingdom at the top of a music genre created by the hillbillies of the American Music Society. Having found some serious fame in the United States entertainment charts, it was not long before her name was floated in important Hollywood circles in the 80s for a lead female role beside the great John Travolta in a new movie called Grease. Who better to have at the helm, heralding a musical genre, than a woman who topped the musical charts upon arriving in the United States from a completely different musical culture? Her role as Sandy Olsson in Grease sparked a cultural shift in the musical genre, with lightning rod performances that left a lasting mark on pop culture. But this adventurous life of hers, laden with critical acclaim, came to an end on August 8, 2022, after succumbing to a recurring metastatic breast cancer that she had been battling since the early 2010s. As expected, she had Hollywood creme de la creme like John Travolta, Barbra Streisand, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, and many other celebrities pay tributes to her as a sign of respect for what she had done for pop culture and how she merged her world as an Australian together with the entertainment culture in the United States. Although the outrage can be justified for the co-lead of the franchise, how did the world react to the demise of Ed Burns? Number 10. Ed Burns. Edward Byrne Breitenberger, popularly known as Ed Burns, was one of America's biggest actors, who delivered some of the most memorable performances in the history of American theater. Although he tried repeatedly to be part of a Broadway production, success eluded him. But being a thespian in America suggests that opportunities appear at nearly every turn. And it wasn't too long before he got his big break as a part of a 1958 series, 77 Sunset Strip. The project became a national teen sensation that had the United States on a chokehold, giving Edward the acclaim that he believed his talent deserved. But sometimes, artistry and fame create a new appetite for change, and for Burns, his reinvention came with a pressing need for a new name. He wanted something that reflected his artistic persona more than the bland Edward Burns, so he switched it from Edward to Ed, a name that he found more suitable to his artistic side. "Edward is too formal, and there are a lot of Eddies," he said. Ed soared in his role as Kooky, his recurring character on 77 Sunset Strip, a valet parking attendant who constantly combed his piled-high, brill-creamed hair, often in a windbreaker jacket. Fast forward to 1978 and he made the transition to the big screen, landing a role in Grease. Aside from his obvious career as an actor, he was just as good a singer, making him a natural fit for the project. It was a musical, after all, so some music know-how was definitely a requirement for anyone looking to get in on the action. In the movie, he played the memorable role of dance show host Vince Fontaine, who was modeled on Dick Clark, the popular show host of American Bandstand. And Ed gave a performance so memorable that it pushed his career into becoming the only regular cast member on the NBC comedy drama anthology series Sweepstakes in 1979. Ed reportedly died of natural causes on January 8, 2020, at his Santa Monica home. Although his son claimed that it might have been from a stroke, the popular report stood flatly on business, describing his demise as natural causes and nothing more. Although Ed's overbearing character on Grease made him a fan favorite, right alongside him was Sid Caesar's energetic and chaotic character, Coach Calhoun, who brought life and serious humor to the role. But when news of his death broke in 2014, how difficult was it for fans to say goodbye to the commanding presence of Coach Calhoun? Number 9. Sid Caesar. Isaac Sidney. Caesar, popularly known as Sid, brought his best foot forward as one of the greatest comedians and comic actors in the United States, with a career spanning well over 50 years. But Sid wasn't just some regular comic actor. He was a visionary who pioneered two of the biggest live television series in the United States, including Your Show of Shows, which lasted for 4 years between 1950 and 1954. Right after he ended Your Show of Shows, he created Caesar's Hour in the same years, leaving a trail for the coming generations to follow. Sid wasn't the regular comedian who enjoyed stand-up comedy like Betty White, Lucille Ball, or even Bernie Mac. He enjoyed working as a sketch comic, enhancing scenes to create the humor he needed while relying on writers to write his dialogue. However, that was no hindrance to his performance on Grease as Coach Calhoun. He dazzled in his speech, body language, and facial contortions that set the stage alight every time he appeared on the screen. But on February 12, 2014, Caesar died at his home in Beverly Hills, California, at the old age of 91. According to the Caesar family spokesman, Eddie Friedfeld, Sid had not been well for a while and he was getting weaker every day, tying his death to natural causes. Hollywood enthusiasts and other comics he inspired reacted with pain to his death. But did the loss of Jeff Conaway feel the same for fans of the franchise? Number 8. Jeff Conaway. Jeffrey Conaway found a passion for Hollywood right in the home where he grew up. His mother was an actress who went by the stage name Mary Ann Brooks, and his father was an actor, publisher, and producer. His journey to fame started when he was only 10. He had accompanied his mother, Helen, to a casting call for a Broadway show under director Arthur Penn, who was planning a theater-defining project called All the Way Home. Jeff, who had mainly gone there to watch his mother in action, suddenly found himself cast on a Broadway show as one of the 4 boys on Arthur Penn's All the Way Home, a Pulitzer Prize-winning play that earned a Tony Award nomination. Jeff found his way into the spotlight quicker than most kids, and he did not let it go. While he had appeared on Broadway, his parents nudged him towards modeling, and then he found a passion for music at 15, playing with a rock band called 3½. However, that experience on Broadway set his sights on the stage forever, and the stage called and he answered, but this time as Kennedy Murdoch on Grease. His portrayal of the role as the badass, leather-clad leader of the T-Birds was a generation-defining performance that inspired the coming generations in the depiction of the teen movie badass leather jacket-wearing stock character. Although he was successful as an actor, music was also a passion he could not let go of. So, a year after Grease was released, he recorded and released a self-titled album, chasing the high of music that he just couldn't seem to get enough of. However, his struggles were over in May 2011, when he was found unconscious from what some deemed to be substance abuse at first. However, Drew Pinsky, the doctor who used to treat him for substance abuse, claimed that he was suffering from pneumonia and sepsis. He claimed that he was mostly high, therefore did not recognize how much he was suffering from the diseases that he had, leading to his death. While critics had consistently deemed his demise to be partly self-inflicted, which has often split hairs in pop culture conversations, was it the same for Annette Charles? Number 7. Annette Charles. Annette Charles was a beautiful television icon who had the world eating out of her hand every time she appeared on the silver screen of Hollywood. While she was often recognized for being multifaceted, as she dominated spaces as an actress, dancer, and educator, she found serious fame as Charlene Cha-Cha Di Gregorio in the 1978 feature film Grease. Her iconic line, "Call me Cha-Cha," and the avant-garde dance moves that bordered on recklessness left a strong artistic impression on Hollywood and created an impression about the bold and beautiful white women who would toe the most unbalanced lines to fulfill artistry. However, the energy-filled trailblazer lost a bout with lung cancer in 2011 in Los Angeles at the age of 63. But Annette was not the only female star of renown from the Grease franchise that captured hearts. How did fans react to another beautiful showstopper, Dodie Goodman, who lost her life in 2008? Number 6. Dodie Goodman. Born Dolores Goodman, she was always known for being a character actor. These kinds of actors create an environment where unusual or eccentric characters are more visible when they appear, and she was especially good at it. Moreover, Dodie was not in the character actor niche. She attended Northwestern University, where she studied dramatics and 2 ballet schools, including the School of American Ballet and the Metropolitan Opera Ballet School. While she definitely had the education and credentials for showmanship, she backed it up with serious talent that landed her a Broadway debut at 27. From then on, she wrote newspaper columns about her ballet solos in huge Broadway musicals, such as the 1947 production of High Button Shoes and Wonderful Town. Although she was killing it at Broadway, Dodie was the type to expand her horizons if her talent permitted, so she explored television. In her interviews, she was reportedly interesting for her ability to simply flow within the constraints of some spontaneous scripts, without going off topic or falling into malaprops whenever it pleased her. For television specialists like Jack Parr, who was a nighttime talk show host at the time, she was a television talent that could explode given the right conditions, which he believed he possessed. The Tonight Show. On the show, he invited her and made her a semi-regular guest, who dazzled on television with her humor and malapropisms. However, Dodie had a strong tendency to upstage other performers, as she reportedly realized how difficult the market could be and why she needed to be at the top of every competition. While that might have been an accepted part of the trade on Broadway, television was a different market, and when Jack Parr reportedly found her upstaging habits creeping into his show and somewhat stealing his shine, he reportedly let her go. Although she appeared on other television talk shows as a self-acclaimed professional celebrity and found some fame, her life as an actor was not fully behind her. So she found herself back on set, but this time on a musical called Grease. While she had found fame in her early career as a television personality and Broadway genius, Her role on Grease as Blanche Odell in the 1978 release heightened her fame and set her up for even more acclaim than she had before, helping her find success in one of Hollywood's biggest ever franchises. However, throughout her life, until her death, Dodie never found the time for marriage, nor did she have children to succeed her. When she died of natural causes on June 22, 2008, at Englewood Hospital and Medical Center in Englewood, New Jersey, aged 93, she was survived by 7 nieces and nephews, and 26 other great-great-niblings. Even after her death, Eddie Deason, her Grease co-star, celebrated her birthday on Facebook, remembering her for her action and the energy she brought to the sets during filming, keeping her memories alive for old and new generations to see. But just how did the world recognize another fallen hero who featured in the 1978 musical? Number 5. Dennis C. Stewart. Dennis Cleveland. Stewart definitely found himself in the hallowed halls of Hollywood after he was selected to play the role of Leo Craterface Balmudo in the 1978 musical, Grease. But Dennis was more than an actor who made acting seem easy.
Which conveniently brings us to the topic of today's show. It's Memory Day today on Dennis Cleveland.
He had a larger-than-life personality that oozed through the silver screen, creating the perfect aura around him to flesh out the character. Balmudo was designed by the producer Alan Carr as an absolute menace. He was the perfect foil and antagonist that rivals and continuously attempts to thwart the T-Bird gang, which was led by Danny Zuko, who was played by John Travolta. His appearance, as craggy and pockmarked, was the perfect match for his snake-hissing gimmick that painted him as the perfect rage baiter who always looked to start a fight. His depiction of the older leather jacket-wearing school bully was a huge template in popular culture and has been fingered as a possible inspiration for younger actors who saw him play the role to the T. His performance in the first season ensured that he got another bite at the cherry, reprising the role in the second part of the Grease franchise in 1982. Although he got other roles, especially as a dancer in Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, his role as Balmudo Craterface created visibility for him and got him the most acclaim. Following his years of fame as Balmudo, he contracted HIV in 1993, although no one could really tell how he contracted it, nor were his medical records released to the public. He reportedly lost his life to pneumonia as a result of serious AIDS complications. Tabloids often discuss him as the star who burned brightly but faded out so quietly. But how much wave did Eddie Deason make on the movie? And did he burn out as quickly as Dennis did? Number 4. Eve Arden. Eve Arden portrayed the role of Principal McGee, the authoritative and nigh-militant ruler of Rydell High, who often made speeches using a public address system and gave announcements the same way. She was the perfect foil to the gullible, nerdy student Eugene Felsnick, played by Eddie Deason, talking about the portrayal of high school nerds who just never really fit into the cool kids criteria. No one did it better than Eddie Deason. He was notoriously good at the role and perfected his niche as a character actor, just like his friend Dodie Goodman, and was also a comedian. Eddie featured in movies like Midnight Madness, I Want to Hold Your Hand, 1941, $1 Million Mystery, and War Games, playing the same nerdy role. While he was a monster at these roles, creating hit after hit on these characters, he gained serious acclaim for his role as Eugene Felsnick on Grease. Eddie Deason played the role of the school's regular nerd, who often wore his heart on his sleeve and a pair of glasses that conveyed a sense of innocence and poor navigation of the cool greaser culture depicted in the movie. He created the perfect balance as a foil character, Eugene Felsnick, to nearly every leather jacket-wearing teenager in Rydell High. However, as often as Eve's character, Principal McGee, gave orders and showed everyone who was boss, she still found a way to bring the humor into it, giving her serious acclaim as the perfect actress for the role. Although she found success in other movies, including the blockbuster Whiplash, her role as Principal McGee remained a huge staple throughout her career. But age was not so kind, as she died of cardiac arrest and atherosclerotic heart disease at age 82. Number 3. Joan Blondell. Joan Blondell, who played Vi in Grease, performed in film and television for half a century. She reportedly began her career as a vaudeville actress and, whenever she got the chance, ventured into modeling. Joan was often referred to as one of the queens of Hollywood before the Hays Code was created and followed to the letter. The Hays Code made it so that nefarious characters, who were once depicted as possible role models or gods to everyone else watching them, including the mafia and other gangsters in movies like Scarface, The Public Enemy, and Little Caesar, no longer passed as heroes in any written movie. Hollywood was rife with themes of infidelity, prostitution, and promiscuity, and Joan Blondell was a big part of the success attributed to this pre-code era. She was particularly popular for her roles in crime dramas and sexual movies like 3 on a Match and Gold Diggers, which glamorized transactional romance and blonde crazy. However, how Grease came into the picture in 1978, where she was playing the role of a beautiful waitress who acted as the teen mom stock character and sometimes kept the peace, since she often offered advice to characters like Frenchie. Blondell died of leukemia on Christmas Day, 1979.
Actress Joan Blondell, who so perfected the role of the big-hearted and wisecracking blonde that she became a type, died today of leukemia in Santa Monica, California.
Just a year after the first Grease movie was released. Although she was cremated, her imprints on pop culture remain set in stone. But just how difficult was it to accept the demise of another Grease star after Joan's death? Number 2. Alice Ghostley. Alice Ghostley was a brilliant singer and actress who made waves in the early days of American theater and found herself at the top of the pile, although she is best known for her roles as Esmeralda, a bumbling witch in the 1969 series, Bewitched, and acted as Cousin Alice between 1970 and 1971 on Mayberry RFD. Her role as Mrs. Murdoch, the shop teacher at Rydell High on Grease, cannot be overlooked. However, there was something that rather stood out about Alice like a sore thumb. But before fans of the show saw it, Alan Carr, the producer of the Grease franchise, already got a front-row seat to the Alice Ghostley show. She was an expert at creating humor out of nothing. She had the capacity to squeeze out a joke from what others might consider the skimpiest material. And this ability did not go wanting when every time that the cameras were on Mrs. Murdoch. She was the fun teacher who let the T-Birds get away with quite a lot of things that anyone might not expect a teacher to allow. For example, she watched the T-Birds steal equipment to go on an illegal Thunder Road drag race. She could tell what was happening, but she just let it slide like it was nothing. Also, she had the tomboy personality down to a letter and was sometimes pictured wearing auto shop overalls. Alice blended into the scene perfectly as a tutor who had her problems and was not ready to take on the hassle of dealing with high school kids, creating an irony and, consequently, humor. On September 21, 2007, Alice lost her life in California after succumbing to cancer and bouts of stroke that she had been fighting as she grew older. The world received news of the deft rib splitter with agony and pain. If the world reacted to the loss of Alice in tears and sorrows, how did fans feel when the man behind the magical Grease franchise, Alan Carr, left the world without a goodbye? Number 1. Alan Carr. Talking about America's biggest name television and film producers to have ever done the job, Alan Carr is somewhere at the top of the list. Although his face was never splashed across the silver screens of Hollywood like John Travolta's, his voice was etched directly into the fabric of the movie. He was the perfect addition as a producer to the series, especially because he was the same person who once produced Saturday Night Fever, which was given to him by producer Robert Stigwood, the same person who entrusted him with fleshing out his ideas on the Grease franchise, yielding results that no one thought were possible. He knew exactly what to look for when he set out to make the movie. As co-producer, he created a cast list of energetic young people who could dance, sing, and act in equal measure without any side of their duties being neglected for the other to shine. So, he employed youngsters like John Travolta, who played the male lead, Danny Zuko, Olivia Newton-John, whom he reportedly pushed for despite grievances from his partners, Stockard Channing, who played Rizzo, and Didi Conn, who played Frenchie. To most people, they were a band of misfits and seemed like lots of square pegs that Allen was trying to force into round holes. Fast forward 4 decades, and pop culture thanks him for his services and his risky character choices, despite how they seemed at the time he made them. Although Grease remains an important part of his repertoire, he also found success on Broadway. While his career seemed to be possibly moving forward and possibly flying him towards new horizons, he died in 1999, at the age of 62, succumbing to liver cancer. Do you think these stars received enough recognition after their deaths? Will there ever be another musical like Grease? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.